Hello and welcome to another episode of ZenChats. Today I am thrilled to be talking with Ben Mauro. Am I saying that right?
Mauro, yeah.
Mauro from Huxley Comics, which is a phenomenal project, rich in storytelling, world building, lore, and all of the good stuff that honestly I've been falling in love with over the last several months. But before we get to that, welcome. How are you? How's your day going?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. Just really happy to be here and excited to chat about stuff. And
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about stuff, and like I'm somewhat familiar with your project, but I think there's a lot of depth and complexity to it that I might not be familiar with, and I'm sure that some of the listeners and watchers aren't as familiar with. So hopefully we can dig into the meat of the project. But maybe before we get to that, I'd love to know a bit about your background, sort of pre Web3, pre NFTs. Where are you coming from?
sure. Yeah, so I'm a senior concept designer and art director in the game and film industry most of my career for the past like 15 plus years. So I started out working at interning at game studios like Ready at Dawn on some new games. They did like some God of War games and then Sony Pictures Animation, where I worked on some early animated films like Hotel T and some pitches for things that didn't get off the ground. And then after that, I went to Insomniac, working on some early games and Ratchet and Clank and things like this. Resistance 3, I think, was one of the other games. And I went to New Zealand to work at Weta Workshop on the Hobbit trilogy, Elysium, Chappie, Mortal Engines, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and a whole bunch of movies down there. And after that, I sold all my belongings and freelanced and kind of traveled all over the world for 3 years while I worked on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and 4, and also the film Valerian. After all that traveling, I needed time to settle down and focus on finishing my Huxley graphic novel, and ended up back in Seattle to work on Halo Infinite for about 3 years. And since then, I've just been finishing and focused on Huxley and getting that out the door. The moment I was like getting finished with Huxley, the kind of like Web3 NFT revolution happened right as I was trying to figure out like what's the best way to get this huge thing I've been working on for like a decade out the door. And it was like, well, this sounds really interesting and fascinating. Like this feels like an interesting thing happening. Maybe this is the most interesting way to do something in 2021.
When did you sort of make the decision to go, hey, I've been working on this thing for 10 years, which is crazy, by the way, and then say, well, NFTs is the medium I'm choosing to use to distribute it or deliver it to the fans?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely kind of risky and scary, like to spend that much time on like your baby, basically, and then just risk it on this brand new thing that just kind of was taking off, and had a lot of like hot takes from different people. But for me, I guess I just saw it for what it was, as like a solution to a problem that every digital artist has had, at least in my opinion, my whole career. This was a problem I've had, and this was a solution to that problem. And to me, maybe it's very early, but I just see like this is a big moment, and I see where this is going. And I think recently I keep equating it to almost like Ethereum's almost like the 56K modem to this new internet.
Yeah, I love that.
And like at the beginning of the internet, like it was inefficient and it wasn't very fast, and it was like, but you could see the value there. There was something incredibly valuable to the entire world in this early thing. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at. And I think most people can see the value in what's happening, and it's just going to get better as we go along. So from my standpoint, I guess I saw it for that, like because I went through the internet from the start.
Yeah.
And you kind of see how things start and grow. And to me, it was just like, I want to be involved from the beginning of whatever this ends up being. And so for me, it was a risk, but I don't think it's as big of a risk as maybe most people might have think.
Yeah.
Just being in technology our whole lives, you know?
Yeah, I've heard it sort of referred to, it's almost a risk not to do it. Like, but by not going in, if you go the traditional route, that's another risk. It's just a different type of risk, and it's weighing the different options. And yeah, I've heard that same sort of sentiment and analogy back to the early internet days from so many people. I think like in people who are in their 30s and 40s now, we grew up in those days and we saw it, but we weren't in a position to capitalize on it, perhaps, or
Yeah.
like we didn't. And now it's like, okay, now we've seen that. I'm not missing this. This is the next big thing. The writing is on the wall. It's just going to take a few years till mass adoption, I think, really happens. But the march has begun. We're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also, I think I started hearing about it like late 2020 when people started posting about it, and a few other friends like Victor Mascara were on Super Rare, and he kind of helped me like, oh, this is how you apply, and kind of helped me. And I kind of took baby steps at first, like, let me sell some of my art on Super Rare. Like, how does this work? And just experimenting and figuring it out. And then experimented launching Project Evolution on Flow, and that did really well. And then a lot of it was just that kind of, I think a lot of that kind of convinced me, like, let's just, maybe this is the best way to do it. And I think the biggest thing as well for me was I spent all this time on it, and I want to keep all the rights as much as possible. And had I gone the Web 2 route earlier, Dark Horse or whoever would have tried to take all the rights, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So for me, it was like, get revenue as directly as possible from the audience I'm trying to sell to, and maintain ownership and rights to my intellectual property that I've spent like most of my life making. So this kind of solved that problem in a huge way that had never happened for us before. And I just, to me, that was just like ticked all the boxes, even though it was kind of new and risky. I thought it was worth the risk to go for it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's been amazing just watching the journey over the last. When exactly did the first issue launch? It feels like it's been 6 months, but time is so warped in this space.
I think it has been like 6 or 7 months, like last October, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we launched we were trying to make it on my birthday, but maybe it was a little later. But it was like in October, maybe like mid-October.
And that was issue 1. Is there 6 issues in total, or is 6 like the first run? Yeah.
6 is like the entire story that I made. It's like about 183 or 4 pages of basically a movie-sized story broken up into episodes, and it basically, or like a full season of a TV show.
Yeah.
Tells a complete story. Yeah.
And it's all created, all written, and now you're just releasing it.
It's all done. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been done for over a year or two. Again, it's just like, I made this cool thing. Like, what's the best avenue? And I think that's also one of the things that the Huxley community understands, but maybe the bigger community that doesn't know about it. It's like, this is all done. Like, you guys don't have to wait for me to spend 6 months to make the next issue. Like, I finished it before, like, I made the product before I launched the product.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like, how you should do things.
It is, but most people don't. And it's a little,
So like most of the space feels more like reversed, right? Like, here's art that maybe will turn into something someday. Whereas I made all the art, and it's like, now you can buy the finished product now.
Yeah. So many people sell, like, they have an idea and they're like, let's sell NFTs to fund the creation of the thing. And sometimes that works and it makes sense, but in many instances it doesn't. And creating something first and then selling it, it's just, that makes sense, right? That makes logical sense. Yeah.
So I feel like that's always like ingrained in me. Like, I don't like putting something out there that isn't done, or like a week away from being finished or something, because it just, I don't know. I just like to, like, there's all these like people throwing the word metaverse around a lot. And I just want to make sure, like, if I sell anything related to that, you can go into it and use it like that day or as soon as possible, because I'm not okay with like selling something and I'm like, maybe in 3 years you'll be able to get this land someday.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's no.
So much of this is abstract and just, it's like, maybe one day that'll be a thing. And people are just buying and selling hope, or like, not even hope, just like speculation, which is never good.
Which is why I feel like cleaner, just like, here's a comic, you got the comic, you can read it. We'll ship you a physical, like, and you can have the comic on your shelf, and it's very like one-to-one.
But there are some interesting like tokenomics and dynamics you've introduced in the form of like being able to burn comics for future. And is that something you originally planned from day one as wanting to do, or was that introduced later? Maybe could you just talk a bit about the whole
Sure.
tokenomics system that you've put together? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a burn mechanism where people can burn comics to get a Genesis token, which allows you to get avatars when those are released. And the first one was for robots, which we did 1,000, and they're all like handmade. One, like there's no random generation. It was like all hand done, like
Wow.
basically like a 1 of 1, 1,000,
Yeah.
and killed my wrist.
How long did that take?
That was a long time. That was like a lot of months to do all that by hand.
Wow.
And the next one will be humans, which will be more than 1,000, and a bit. There will be generation elements in that one, so
Yeah.
it will be less handmade, but just allows people to like, I don't know. It's like a deflationary mechanism for the comics. So like
Yeah.
issue 1 shot up the moment we started burning a big
Mhm.
chunk of them for robots, and it just allows collectors to like choose their own adventure in a way, which I think is cool, and also makes it where I don't know what's going to happen. Like if more
Yeah.
people choose to keep the comics, then those have certain value, or and then it allows the avatars to be more valuable, or more
Yeah.
avatars and the comics go down, and it's this constantly influx. I have no idea what's going to happen depending on the collector choices, which is really exciting to me. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fun, right? It's like it's something that you can only realistically do with NFTs and the technology that it unlocks, and the interaction you can have with collectors and fans, and it's just a whole new dynamic that it's fun, it's awesome, it's exciting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the way we did the physical claim, that was also a choice as well. So some people also didn't want to do that, and they wanted just avatars, and then because of that, I think for issue 1 we had like 1,200 ish people claim. So there's only going to be 1,200 of
Yeah.
issue 1 in the world, which is incredibly
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
And again, it creates like different collector markets of
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff that we have no idea what those
Yeah.
numbers will be. So it just creates like really, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Did you take inspiration from Punk's comics and what they did, or is this like a idea that you came to by yourself?
Which aspect?
Well, the Punks comics is the project by Pixel Vault. They launched in like
Mhm.
April, and then they said, you can decide to keep or burn for a Founders Vault token or something like that. And if you keep it, you can claim it or burn it for a physical, etc. And similar dynamics with a comic as well. That's I guess why I was thinking of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of looking at what everyone's doing, and Huxley is like they're doing a lot of stuff we're not doing, and we're doing stuff that they're
Yeah.
not doing. So it's like what makes sense for this product that is all done, and we just try to do this makes sense, but that doesn't make sense, and let's try this other thing, and
Yeah.
like I think that's the best we can do, right? And some things work, some things maybe don't work as well as we think, and it's kind of
Yeah.
always like adapting. And someone else is probably gonna in like 6 months,
Yeah.
the landscape's probably going to be totally different, and it's like, well, that's a better way to do it. Let's try this, and always just trying to do the best
Yeah.
thing we can for the exact product we're launching.
Yeah, I mean, we're all figuring, like, everyone's figuring it out as we go. Like, everyone's experimenting and just trying and throwing paint at the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. What's your like big vision, end goal, or like, I mean, you've got the comics, you've got these avatars now that you're building. It sounds like you're building a whole world, a universe. Where do you want all this to go? Do you want it to be a metaverse that exists in the Huxley metaverse? Or do you want to build out more future comics, animations, shows? I know you have a movie deal. Not a movie deal. It's an animated deal. It is a movie deal. Is that? Do you want to do more of that? Like, yeah, where do you want this all to be in a few years?
Well, I guess from my background, like I just have built these giant billion-dollar franchises for other people my whole career, and so I just know how to do that, and I'm kind of just doing it for myself now. So the plan would just be to like have Huxley in as many of these content pillars as I can possibly do. So the feature film stuff with Arya Rod and Jerome Chen, they made like producers of like Iron Man and all these huge movies, and so I'm really excited and honored that they thought Huxley was really cool and wanted to produce something, produce a big movie based off my comic. And again, it's a benefit of having it all done ahead of time, because a lot of these projects who are maybe going to try and do that are having trouble because they don't have a product that's finished. So it's like, well, what is this? You know, what's the story? What's the world? And they're like, I don't know.
I'll let you know in
about the
8
art.
months.
It's like, who cares? Like, we have a lot of art. I can go to DeviantArt and get some art. What's the story? Who are the characters? What's the narrative? What are the struggles? What is the narrative arc of your entire movie? And it's like, you know, that's years of work that needs to be done no matter what. And I think it's better to have that done before you go out and do all that stuff.
Yeah. So you've sort of taken, again, an approach that's very different to most others, where you're taking existing work and a body of content and creations and then bringing that into the Web3 space, where it seems like a lot of others are trying to do the reverse, where they're like, we're going to launch some NFTs and then we're going to go from there back to the traditional media senses. I mean, any difficulties that you've found with that approach that you think wouldn't have been there if you went the traditional route?
I think I don't know if it's the difficulty, but like, it definitely feels like there's like the Web3 audience maybe doesn't, or it's like confusing because it is like the reverse. So most of them are like, wait, what's going on here? Like it feels like it's I guess they're not used to like getting a finished product. I guess I don't know. It's just like there's been like definitely an odd like perception. Like, wait, you already did that? Like, I don't know. It's like why did you have so much stuff already done? Like, we're supposed to wait a year to even see a comic, and I'm like, no, it's done. Like, I did it. I spent all those years locked in a room making the thing already. So there's a benefit of that, I guess, would be the only like odd part, where it's like and then again, because my background's in IP development, so like I anticipated all the meetings that I would have once I finished it, and it's like I know that if you walk into a meeting with a comic, they're like, yeah, but what does it look like as a movie? So I spent a year before, as I was finishing the comic, to adapt my own work into a cinematic trailer to show what it would look like as a movie. And that's since gone. We launched it like a month ago, and it's since gone like viral and got like 3.2 or 4 million views collectively already, with no advertising whatsoever, right? Like no big website posted this, no like huge media team that a big company usually does, no ads or anything, all organically. And that's like pretty incredible and unheard of in my experience, like working on big things that go out there. And so again, I just know all the things that are needed to like create something, and I just did all that ahead of time. So all like the ducks are kind of in a row, and I think things are going a lot faster than people expect, just because I did all that work.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing to see. Again, just how far it's come in 6 months, because there's 10 years of work behind it. I guess taking a step back, why did you want to create a graphic novel in the first place? Why Huxley Comics? Why that?
The main thing is like a film or something is probably the most accessible way to do something, just because the whole world can easily just watch something and consume that content. But that takes, you know, potentially 30 to sometimes thousands of people to create something of that scale. And to me, a graphic novel was still one of the very few ways a single creator could create a whole, basically, IP. Because I did illustrate, write it, and design, and I did everything myself, which again is also not very common. Usually there's like, if you open some of your favorite comics, it's like 20 names in there, right? So to me, I just going through IP development for these bigger projects, like I know how many people it takes and the time. You know, sometimes you're just designing one character out of 1,000, and for like the Hobbit or something, like you're contributing, but you're still like a small piece of a giant machine. So for me, I just wanted to feel like I created something myself, and a graphic novel is very much still probably to me the best way to do that for a single creator.
No, that makes a ton of sense. You've mentioned IP a bunch of times, and I think it's a really fascinating area, especially in the NFT space. With the comics, what is the IP dynamic between you and comic holders, as well as with the robots and the avatars that are coming out? What rights do comic holders have, and what do they not have?
For the comics, it's very much like if I bought like a comic or a Pokemon card or something. It's more just like I own that
Yeah.
serialized
Yeah.
issue. I own like 92 or whatever. For the robots, there is some limited merchandising rights, so you can make T-shirts and all this kind of stuff. And but from the IP standpoint, the Huxley still owns that because maybe we need to use those in a movie or something, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. I guess because a lot of this was created before, as opposed to like a lot of the projects that just give everything away. It's like they generated this art and then that's the
Yeah.
thing. And so it's
Yeah.
more like a different, it's almost like a crowdsourced IP development. Like,
Yeah.
up to you where this goes. Like,
Yeah.
where do you want this to go? Whereas in this standpoint, I view it more like I'm trying to build the next Star Wars or whatever this ends up being. And if I had limited merchandising rights on a Boba Fett, and then Star Wars turns into Star Wars, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's really interesting. And there's so many different models that I think can work and should work. And I think, have you received any sort of like backlash against this? Because I can maybe understand why some people would be, but I think that it makes total sense for someone like you who has like creative director, has a vision, who says, well, I want to take the brand in this direction and not have it diluted, not have it splintered off in all these other directions. So I totally agree.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen too much backlash or anything, because I think people have been on board from the start. Like I didn't just like launch a bunch of generated art and like build it that way. It's like there's just that history of like, oh wow, look at this video from like 8 years ago where Ben was talking about Huxley or something.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's clear that I've been doing this a long time and didn't just like come out of nowhere the moment NFTs happened. It was like, hey, let's start this thing. So I think because of that, it's been more like people get it and understand. Yeah.
What has it been like having this community now form around the comics, and I guess having a relationship with the people who found it? Is it stressful? Do you feel like you sort of have to sort of change your approach or do things differently than what you would just want to do yourself? Or is it the opposite? Is it wonderful having fans and people who are just like more involved? And yeah, I don't know, maybe it's both.
Yeah, I think a bit of both. It's definitely like, because typically like making a comic was just me alone in a room with no one caring about it for 10 years. You're like, do people even like this? Like what, I think it's cool, but you have that immediate like feedback, but then the benefit is you have the immediate feedback, and the negative is that you have the negative feedback.
Yeah.
Immediate. If something is good, it's like you hear it. If something's bad, you hear it, and it's just like, like my Discord is up right here all day. So like anything that's happening is like immediately kind of affects you. So that can be a bit intense sometimes. But I mean, it is good because then you see like, okay, that's clearly not working. How do we fix this? Or that's working. Okay, how do we make that better? And but it's definitely a balancing act, because it's like a lot of the bigger things I want to create take quite a bit of time, but then it's like, well, I don't want to leave people for a couple of years without anything. So like, what is also some cool things we can do to build these other experiences that aren't like a huge multi-year process? So a lot of it is like with the movie, that's probably going to take a while, but that's one thing that's in motion. And then like books and novels that I want will be in motion with like writers and things. And but other stuff that I can be more hands-on, can be more active on, and like things that can come out relatively consistently. It's a lot. But it's fun.
It is a lot. It's a lot, but it's fun. So you've released 3 of the 6 comics now. Do you already know when you're going to release the next 3? Are the sort of dates decided?
Yeah, I think we've announced some. I don't want to say anything if they didn't announce the exact date, but I think we have a timeline of things up till like end of May right now, and then we said issue 4 will be coming after that. So probably around that timeline. But again, it's more of like they're all done, so we could do it anytime really, but it's more just like spacing out so it's not
Right.
too overwhelming, and making sure we get all the physicals out to people, which are coming really soon. And because there's just like, it's easy to put digital things out in the world, but like physical is a whole different
It's a
ball
whole
game.
different, especially when there's COVID and there's a war.
COVID and a war and shipping and
it's a nightmare. Yeah. What are well, who else is on the team? So it's not just you now involved in the entire project. Who else do you have working on different aspects of the whole thing?
Yeah, so I have many artists I'm working with that are kind of all over the world to help me on things, and also the team I partner with for the blockchain development side is the Feature. My friend Stephen Alous is the CEO, and I've been working with them from the start to help me do the website, community, tokenomics, blockchain, coding, and all that stuff. And they have their own team of probably about like 40 people.
Wow.
So quite a big team to handle a lot of that side of things. And yeah, I think a lot of it was just recognizing like what I'm good at and what I need help with, and just like finding a good partner to do that side of things. So like I'm not too overwhelmed, and don't get, I got a lot of great from last year.
Yeah.
My head will probably
too,
be white
actually.
by the end of this year.
Yeah.
This was not there
Yeah.
last year, right? Like all
this is NFT
time. This is NFT Super Saiyan hairdo that we're all getting.
Yeah. But
So
it's worth it, right?
Finding
It's
partners
fun.
where you can to help, and
100%. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I know this is a question I ask everyone. You've already sort of answered it, but like, where do you see Huxley in 10 years? And I mean, it sounds like everywhere, but yeah,
I guess just like an established brand as big as like Star Wars or any of these things that we know and love. And I talked about this with friends, but like as a creator and an artist, I feel like it's my like life's work or duty to like expand the imagined worlds of like humanity. Like all the things that have been imagined, like Star Wars and all these things, these are like new worlds that are now in existence because of artists and creators.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's our like life's work to there's a pool of all these things. It's our life's work to like expand that in some way before we kick the bucket. And I'm hoping I can do that in some way where it's just like, oh wow, now there's a new imagined universe for the world to enjoy. And that's pretty much my life's work.
I love it.
my life's ambition to constantly expand that pool of imagined universes for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I love it. What are some of your favorite graphic novels or comics?
Well, Huxley's influence is probably written on my arm pretty easily. Like I'm obsessed with like French and Japanese graphic novels and mangas. I love Meta Barons. I love Mobius's work hugely. Otomo, who did Akira, Shiro, who did Ghost in the Shell. There's just so many incredible like artists and just like very intelligent thinkers on design and everything. I'm just really fascinated with how they think and have solved problems and illustrated things and created these imagined worlds that to me will last forever in their just unique and pure vision of all these things that the world has never seen before. And to me, that's just hugely inspiring, and I'm trying to follow in their footsteps as much as possible. And again, try to create something that does what they did for me to the next generation. Is kind of like, again, the life's ambition and duty of an artist, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you're doing it as well. It's like I can see it happening. It's amazing. It's really wonderful to see. I just had a question and then it fell out of my head. Oh, right. So what are some other NFT projects that you look at and see? Because you obviously have a ton of experience in world building, storytelling, and IP and all that kind of stuff. What are some other projects out there that you think are doing that sort of well or right, like building out a world in a thoughtful way?
Yeah, I think the Parallel team has been doing really good. And also I just feel like what they've been doing has been very realistic as well. You know, they're just like, we're doing like an awesome card game with like the most amazing art we can create. And they're not saying like, and then you can go into the metaverse. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
we're making
It's
an
just
awesome card game, and
yeah.
that's what we're doing. And they kept it very achievable and
Mm-hmm.
simple. And I think they've been very smart and intelligent about how they've been doing things. So I definitely admire like the work they've been doing.
Really like slow and steady and methodical as
Mhm.
well. It's like they're really taking the time and building it out, and just the community, like the supporters are so passionate and love because it's so well thought out and fleshed out. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And also I really like how Artifact has done things. I worked on some stuff with them with the space trip, and yeah, I just feel like they've done a very good job as far as like building and supporting projects and things, and it's been very inspiring to see how they have been doing things as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think Artifact is just so, it's almost it is different to almost any other NFT project. It's like their execution is basically next level, and yeah, it's especially if you go back 6-8 months ago and see what they were doing compared to everyone else. It was like there was light years ahead, parallel too, actually, with their graphics and everything. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just appreciate the like the innovation and things where yeah, just like doing things that oh wow, like haven't seen that before, and
yeah,
just, like exciting a community and stuff has been really inspiring. And just trying to like again, like I'm always analyzing what's happening everywhere and just like what makes the most sense maybe to try out in Huxley and what might fit this project. And because it really is like each project is different, and certain things just maybe don't fit or won't work. Or I think there's been a lot of things too where projects will just add a bunch of stuff, but there are laws coming up that is going to like hit every project that is doing certain things. It's just like, well, yes, that's cool. However, our lawyers are saying, don't touch this idea.
The SEC is coming.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things where people are like, why aren't you doing it? I'm just like, because everyone's gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's being as smart as possible about everything.
Yeah. No, I mean that's smart. If you had infinite money, if you had all the money in the world, all the time, the resources, and you were expanding the Huxley universe, you were building something, what would that thing be? What are you most excited to create? Is it a series of movies? Is it a video game? What's the thing that you would just love to see come to life the most?
Yeah, probably both, like games and films, especially. Like most of my career the last few years has been in game development, and just I don't know, something about making games just really, that's kind of what got me started as an artist. Like the first Halo was like the thing that was just like, I want to do this. Like I played a lot of games my whole life, but like Halo was just like, I think I could do this for a living. I want to do this. Like this inspired me so much to like do this. And, you know, eventually I did get to work on Halo and things that inspired me. Like I specifically love the old Forerunner architecture. I was like, it'd be so cool to like make levels and like design this like futuristic architecture. And it took me like 15 years, but I finally got to do that on the most recent game. So it's just like
so cool.
It's an awesome like full circle moment.
Yeah.
But just games are so difficult to make. So but it's just such a fascinating thing to have this like virtual world that we can all hang out with our friends and go have fun adventures and explore. And so for me, the game stuff I feel will be really big. Just high on the priority list, because a movie is, I could see like just letting other people handle that, and just as long as the world I'm involved on like the world design and make sure the story is in line with everything else that's going on. There's certain things that I would, it's just too big. I can't do everything, but maybe be more hands-on with the game stuff and just build a really exciting world that we'd all want to hang out and experience and explore and go on adventures in. And
it sounds amazing. What are your favorite video games? Is it Halo? Is that one of your favorite games, or like
Halo's up there? Yeah. I think a lot of stuff. It's been interesting to I don't have as much time as I used to, but definitely was playing the most recent Halo, trying out Elden Ring a little bit. I'm terrible at all their old games, but this one is a little more easier because I can actually just like run away from getting murdered.
I played about 45 minutes. Everyone's talking about it. I was like, I got to get this game. It sounds fun. I haven't had the chance to play, but 45 minutes, I died about 20 times.
Well, what's interesting is like, it's so hardcore and they don't tell you.
Yeah.
So I played a little bit and I was just like, why do you guys like this game so much? I don't understand. And like, it's so hard. And they're just like, oh, just level up. I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you do
Yeah.
that? And they're like, you have to go to this one area on the map
Yeah.
and you have to like find this crystal and then you have to like sit down and a cutscene happens and then you have to click yes 3 times and then you can level up. And I was like, how would I figure that out? But then once I did that, I was like, oh, now I can level up. It's so easy now. And
yeah.
but it was so hardcore that I was just like, I was about to give up. But they're like, no, just wait. You can like level up.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? I would never have figured that out.
Yeah. Thankfully, we have the internet and people to ask, and yeah.
I think
I've heard great things. Yeah.
What else came out the last year? I mean, Call of Duty. I've always been a Call of Duty fan, and I mean, I've worked on a bunch of those games, so I'm always obsessed with like Warzone and those kind of games. And I mean, Fortnite's really cool, and some of the other experience though that I've like, there's stuff like Rust. I don't know if it's like super. I mean, that is pretty popular game, but like I never played that before, and I remember my friends tried to get me into it like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, what is this? And like, we're all naked, like what? Like hitting trees, and like I don't understand. But then we got into it, and I was just like, this is the most addictive thing I have played since like I was in high school, and someone showed me like GTA 3 or something.
Yeah.
And I just hadn't had that like experience of like being addicted to a game. And it was just fascinating because it really felt like you and your friends were living in another world. And the servers reset after a month. So like, it's like this limited shared experience that gets wiped out of you, like hanging out, building a house, and like leveling up in this mini like other world. And like, I had some of the most unforgettable like gaming experiences, like stories, things that happened because it was all player. Like you couldn't script the players coming at night and like murdering all. I don't know. It's just like, the experience I've ever had in the game in the last few years has been probably Rust or similar games like that. It's just, I don't know, just unexpected things, right?
It sounds awesome, and honestly, it's some of the most fun I've had in my whole life is playing video games with friends in these other worlds, just hanging out. And I guess that brings us back to the metaverse, which is kind of like, in a way, we've been living in these little metaverses in video games already. But what do you think of like the projects that are already out there that are quote unquote metaverses, like Sandbox, Decentraland, and some of the other ones? In terms of these 3D worlds, do you think I don't know, like, what do you think is the end state? Do you think there's going to be dozens of these that people hang out in and that everyone finds their own one? Or do you think there'll be like 1 or 2 that are like the metaverse that everyone is in?
I'm not sure if any of them will be the meta. I really think it's going to be like the internet, personally, where it's like, imagine if someone was just like, my website is the internet. That's it. I'm the winner. My website is the internet. It's just like, no, it's all this giant thing that's all interconnected. I think the biggest hurdle will just be the technology needed to host all these things connected into one space. That's going to take a very, very long time. I think Intel has said the chipset and technology needed to run that will not be available even at the most aggressive like technological advanced model for like 15 or 20 years or something, like from the people making the chipsets, right? So like the idea of all this is going to be, it will happen eventually, but it's going to take a long time for like what we are thinking of as Ready Player One. So all these mini experiences are really cool. I'm just not sure how, like, it's going to be fascinating. We're going to see how it shakes down, you know?
And people are building using like different engines as well that may not be compatible. So it's like you can't go from one to the other, but you can go to It's going to be fascinating to see, though.
Assets won't be compatible. So that's another thing. Like people like buying, I got all this land and I got these things. It's like for that. Nowhere else, right?
Pretty much,
so I think that might be like, not the cautionary tale, but just like the like investor like researching or understanding is just like you're owning that just there. That doesn't mean everywhere. Or then there's people like trying to sell like metaverse land, but they take Google Maps data and they're basically selling that
Yeah.
IRL. But then it's like, well, then you could do the same thing and sell the exact same space, and I
Yeah.
could do the same thing and sell the exact same space. It's just like it doesn't matter in a way. So like a lot of stuff like that, where it's just like I don't know about that. Like I don't know. It's the Wild West right now, you know.
I remember about a year ago when I was first getting in, there was this project that was selling colors. Just you could go and buy just a square, and it was like a color palette. But if you bought that one, someone else couldn't buy that one. And for a little bit, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. It'd be cool to own, these specific colors." Yeah,
I own red.
But then it's like, well, someone else just launches a website and sells the exact same colors. You can't own color. Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, but I guess a lot of the space is like really just experimental and figured things out. And
yeah,
I do think Sandbox and like Decentraland and stuff have been doing a good job. Who knows where all this goes, but they are offering a real experience you can play right now. So that to me, that is like, it's a one-to-one experience, which I feel is most important. Like you're buying this land, you have that land, and you can build stuff on it or whatever, and people can go to it. You can hang out, and like Snoop Dogg's Snoopverse or whatever, like you can go hang out with Snoop in his space. Like they are offering a real experience. So to me, that's really cool and like a legitimate thing that is being made. So I think anything that's doing that is good, instead of the only things I'm hesitant against is just like saying all that stuff and then selling things, but they don't. You need to have that one-to-one experience, I think, that people will enjoy. But I guess Sandbox did kind of start like that. Was that like?
Yeah, I think
initially you actually didn't have the space that you could enjoy.
Yeah, I can't actually remember. I wasn't around when they started. I know that for a very long time it was sort of, you couldn't go in. Even now, I'm not sure anyone can go in and play. Like they have the alpha, but they made it available for builders. So like they were like, well, you can buy the land, you can build on it, so you can go in and build, but it's not like interoperable yet. You can't go explore. But now that they've got the alpha and it's where you can jump in and play.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it seems like one-to-one, which is like awesome. That's the way it should be.
People are having fun.
It is it's a real experience, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I've like spent a bit of time exploring metaverses and hanging out, and like whenever I'm walking around, I like see NFTs and I'm like, oh, I know that one, that's cool. And you see people, and it's like, it's this really fun experience, just this shared experience that makes me excited for the next several years.
Yeah. And some of the stuff I've been seeing recently was On Cyber has been building like bigger space.
The 6529 thread.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like you have portals to other different rooms and things. I'm like, that's really fascinating. And because a lot of the stuff being built in game engines, like that's quite an endeavor, because then you need all the server space and then you download the game. But to have, I mean, it won't be like Unreal 5 level or something in our browser, but like as a experience that any of us can like load up in a web browser, like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like walking around the museum of NFT art, you can see it, like the history, and there's like a story.
It's so cool and accessible.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All good. Yeah. Probably about time that we wrap this up, but I want to ask, is there anything else you want to touch on or mention that we haven't covered yet?
I'm not sure. I think we covered quite a bit and got into some cool discussions about future.
It's been fun
and what's been going, where things are going, and it's gonna be fascinating because like again, like it does still feel a bit like 56K modem days, and if all this cool stuff's already happening now, I'm just excited to see where all this goes in even the next couple of years. Because it's just moving so fast, like faster than even I expected. And it's just, I think we're all like, do the best, coolest stuff we can and adapt with the incredibly rapid pace of technology advancing.
It's so wild. Yeah. I've chatted to some people who are like, they've worked at tech startups that moved a million miles a minute, and they say it is nothing compared to the NFT space. It's absolutely wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And like we were saying before, like adapting strategy and stuff, like we have 3 more comments to go, and we're completely rethinking like how the last 3 go compared to, because it's like,
Mm.
you know, just so much has changed since we
Yeah.
launched. Even like smart contracts, like we expected to have the same smart contract for all of them, but because things advance so fast, we have to rewrite the whole thing to be more gas efficient and everything, because it's just 6 months is like
so fast.
20 years or something.
It's a lifetime.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But it's amazing. It's fun. It's terrifying, but it's fun. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, I've got to get you back on when you've got the next Star Wars.
Sure. Yeah. When
Yeah.
all 6 are out the door, and
Yeah.
I'm so down. It was great speaking with you.